things that I was telling Dirk when we first started talking about the show was, I was asked what would this whole metal DevOps thing be, and what does it even mean? And it was, the whole idea was to build a community about things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Metal music and technology.
Right.
Right. And that's it. And the technology could be Pro Tools, the technology could be a drum machine, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. It's just, or a drum pad, I should say. You are the drum machine, in this case, But, at that point, it's like, it's, once you feel fulfilled, you feel fulfilled and accomplished once you actually get some of that down. And when you start having other pieces, so I'm learning the drums. I'm just learning, right? But the fact that I could play a riff and record it, and then now I finally got all Shure microphones for my thing here, and I got it all streamed out where I can actually start recording drum beats.
Nice.
And it was so cool to go back and listen to it, even though sometimes they might not line up just right. I'm still working on timing and some of these other things, but it's cool. You're like, I can hear what that would actually sound like,
Yeah.
And
it's very exciting.
It's very exciting to be like, that was totally me. That was totally me. I mean, obviously we all have our influences and things like that, but to actually get it down, you're just like, wow, dude.
Yeah, because then it opens your mind to man, there are so many ways I could go with this, to start exploring.
Yeah.
And then your mind realizes that oh my gosh, this is endless. This is an open world.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of great music out there already, and we're all, like you said, we all have influences from all that stuff. But then again, when you create something of your own, you realize it's just slightly not the same as what I hear, because you have your way of playing, whether it's the guitar, the drums, whatever, you have your own input into that. And that in the end creates something unique, which then you realize, if I push into this and if I take some of the stuff that I like and kind of try and do it, but in my own way, you can come up with something completely new. And that's, again, so fulfilling. It gives you a goal in life. It's a feeling. It's like you listen back, you're like, oh my gosh, this is cool. I want to do this with it. It gets you going.
Yeah.
Then you have new projects like, oh, I want to add that. Like in my case, it's like I have all these songs and I'm like, oh, I need this kind of song, or oh, I could do a vibe like that. And so it becomes this big story, a big picture.
Yeah.
And something that, like every night when we're done working on the album in the house here, I go up and I work on my own stuff. And sometimes I'll even come up with oh, this would be a cool Megadeth riff, so I'll record it and then show it to Dave and stuff in case he likes it. But, a lot of the times it's just me having fun being creative.
Yeah. And what's so funny about that is something that I struggle with, is that when you said it's okay to take the time to do something for yourself. Yeah. And, with technology and with music or with any industry, and life happens. A lot of people have kids. I have children, and that takes a lot of time. And I feel bad sometimes about going downstairs and trying to get some stuff going. But I've also noticed that I feel happier with everything else that's going on when I do, right? I mean, you're working on some books and stuff like that, and that's like time crunch. And what I don't want to happen when, and I'm sure when you're working on your own stuff, you feel the same ways. There's no deadline to that. There should be no stress to that. There's no, you have to get this done in this allotted amount of time. Yeah. You can't put you can, but it stinks when you put a time-bound pressure around being creative.
Yeah, because like you said, I agree, a lot of life is that, like outside of our own choice.
Yeah.
Deadlines with work, stuff with family that needs to be done, and stuff you want to do, and there's deadlines. And so it's good to, like you said, to have one thing where it's open. And then if at some point you want to be like, okay, I want to kind of round it up, like that's kind of the phase where I'm at now with my new Band C stuff. I have a lot of songs, and I'm kind of starting to build towards like, okay, I want to, get, Shane from Napalm to put his bass on there. So he actually booked some studio time next month or actually this month to get started with that. To get Sven from Aborted, who's the singer, he's going to sing later this year. Kind of rounding up all the troops to put the whole package together, take it to the studio, get it mixed, and then, see what I want to do with it, right? Yeah. So it's all like, but it's still very like, there's nobody else telling me, I need this thing by, it needs to be done in September. You know?
Which is good. It's good to have the control, the ability to say, I'm going to ease into this. And
exactly.
You might not have that with the 16th album, although it sounds like you have some time, which is good, and it's a different approach, which I think is great, and so tell us a little bit about this band that you've got going, and what type of, you said grindcore,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you want to explain it because some folks might not know what grindcore is and what that sounds like.
Yeah, great question. So for me, it's actually funny because I just made a post online a couple of days ago, or it might have been yesterday, with like kind of the defining grindcore albums for me, because I wanted to hear from other people.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Napalm Death and all those in there.
Exactly. I wanted to hear like what other people's opinions about that are, and tons of people responded, which was really fun. But yeah, for me, it's like, early Napalm Death, arguably current Napalm Death too, Terrorizer, Brutal Truth, Repulsion, Rotten Sound, and I think the sixth one I have on there was Carcass.
Okay, yeah.
And those are like, for me, that's like kind of, along with some others, of course, like Nasm, and there's a lot of grindcore bands out there, but those for me were the ones that kind of like, in my youth, defined what that is. And it's a very intense kind of music, and lots of different branches.
Yep.
Like with all music, every band does it its own way, but it's usually fast drums, a lot of the time. Sort of like, politically motivated lyrics, not necessarily politically in the sense of like politics, but lyrics that have a message.
Sure.
Not just like, the usual metal themes of fantasy or death and gore. I mean, again, some subgenres might have that, but
right.
Grind is usually like my grind, I'd like to say. Like Repulsion, I guess, is more about like horror,
Yeah.
They made one album and that's it. That's the only one they did, and they probably will ever do, and it's a legendary album. But like Napalm Death, and even a band like Carcass, who were actually vegans way back in the day, and kind of put all the gore out there to kind of, ironically, like how or sarcastically, like British people would do, be like, yeah, you like this, huh?
Yeah.
Like, this is what you're eating, So they had like this kind of funny, like medical approach to it. But so it's all those elements, fast, short, like kind of punk influenced stuff with lots of intensity and kind of lyrics that have meaning. So that's the ground. The base for what I do with Ben C is that, and then I'm lucky to have awesome people with me, like Shane Embry, who's obviously the legendary bass player for Napalm Death. He's a friend of mine. He became a friend over the years, so he plays bass, and then Sven, who's another longtime friend of mine from Aborted, fellow Belgian.
Yep.
We worked together back in the early 2000s and always stayed friends. And when I needed, I don't do the vocal thing, and I just don't know how to sing that way. Like I could, but I've done a few things. I actually did a few. We posted a little video of me doing some backing vocals on the Cadaver album a couple of months ago. But I can keep that up for about 10 minutes, and then I probably have no voice. So I have no proper technique to do it.
Yeah. See, the funny thing is about that is like, I do some singing as well, but it's not it's not massive or anything like that. But you'd be surprised, like all over the years, and you get involved with music, and then you're singing, and then you're doing all these different things, and next thing you know, you're not paying attention, and then your voice is cached. And that happened to me. I don't know, a day before I was supposed to speak at Cisco Live this year. We were we were there for the customer appreciation event. They had the Foo Fighters, and then
nice.
Who was it? Weezer.
Nice.
I was like, so I'm like just singing. Woo, next thing you know, the next day I'm like, all right, everybody.
Not good.
So you mentioned Belgium, which is funny because obviously he's from Belgium, and I was there, I don't know, 4 months ago or something like that, and I sent him an email. I said, Dirk, I'm going to Belgium. I'm going to be in Brussels. What should I check out? What should I do? And I was there with a guy named Kurt Klaas from Cisco, and we were out there doing some stuff for these new certifications that just got announced at Cisco Live. And I was out there, and he's like, check out this candy called Couberdones.
Yeah.
So Couberdones, and then there's waffles everywhere because they have this whole Belgian waffle concept, but not like we have these perfectly round waffles. These are like these awesome made waffles with whatever you want on them. They're fantastic. Yeah. And fries were a really big thing. Yeah. Belgian fries. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm going to wander around and I'm going to get all this stuff, right? So then I'm Googling this Couberdone stuff, right? And it's called nose candy.
Yeah. Well, we call them noses like that.
Because they're shaped like this little sphere that looks like a human nose.
Right.
Well, you run around Belgium, start asking people about nose candy, people look at you a little funny. It was like, what's this American guy down here talking about nose candy? I'm like, no, like nose candy, And
not talking about the white stuff.
Yeah, it's not the other stuff. Like it took me a while to find somebody who was like, it's called Kubler but they look like nose candies, so they come over here, and so I finally got some, which were delicious, by the way.
Great stuff. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And then
Sure.
so I was out in Belgium, and there's this little mannequin out there, right? Well, the funny thing is, there's like a mannequin of like a little statue who's going to the bathroom, which is like a very famous statue, and I'm expecting to see this thing be massive, like this just. I'm looking everywhere for this thing. You're like, yeah, it's just down here on this corner, right? And you're looking for this massive, cherub-looking fountain who's going to the bathroom, and I'm like, looking, and it's this big.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like I think it's 11 or 12 inches tall.
Right.
And it's like it's literally built on like the side of a little corner of a hotel or something, and it's just this little itty bitty fountain. And I was like,
that's it.
That's it? I mean, I think the ones that they sell in the gift shops are even bigger than that. I'm like, well, I was like, yeah, I guess size doesn't matter with that, but it was funny anyway. And
you got to see him. He's obviously a Belgian classic. It's kind of like I don't know if you ever got to see the Mona Lisa, but it's the same.
Oh, I have not.
Like the Mona Lisa was at the Louvre in Paris for a long time. Where I used to live in France for many years, so I go to the Louvre kind of more or less, on a regular basis because there's always cool exhibits there, obviously. And so they had the Mona Lisa for a long time. They might still have it, and it's tiny.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's like this big, It's like you expect this, you see it everywhere. You expect this massive painting, and it's this thing you can't even get within 30 feet of it because it's so obviously one of the most prized, paintings in the world. So it's like you can't even get close to it. So there's this massive people at all times instead. You kind of have to wade through it to get there, and then you see it. It's like this tiny little painting.
Little postage stamp thing. What the heck is that, dude?
I mean, it's great, but it's very small.
Yeah. Dude, it's so funny because I was in Barcelona, Spain, and there was this place called Montserrat, and it's a monastery up in the hills. Right? Let me move this thing again. Sorry. So it's this monastery up in the hills, and they have an art museum in it.
Nice.
And you pay, like €7 or whatever, and you go down there, and you're walking around this art museum, and there's Picassos and stuff. But it was like the Picassos when he was painting people.
Right. Okay.
And you can just walk up and touch them. There's like a the cables and stuff hanging around, but like you're just walking up and Picassos and Rembrandts and how does nobody just walked off with a Picasso? I have no idea. Which is good. You're in a monastery with a bunch of monks, so hopefully none of that stuff goes down up there. But it is interesting when you get up close to some of that stuff. You're almost like this is it?
Yeah.
You're like, really?
It's amazing, man. It's like there's an aura around those things where you're like, man, this is a piece of legendary human history.
You can feel it.
Which is so cool about art, right?
Yeah.
You feel it. It's like listening to a record that you grew up to that just has a deeper significance for you. It's funny how that connects with a time in your life, things like that. Any art will be kind of a reflection of where you were at that time as a person.
Yeah. Or
it'll connect you to some events in your life,
which is so cool because you think about where they were.
Yeah.
Because I mean it's totally different century, right?
It's kind of like lyrics in a song, right?
Yeah.
Like the person who writes the lyrics could have a certain thought behind it or a certain significance that's really important to them, and then you read it and it's something completely different for you.
Yeah.
But somehow it connects you. It's like a universal language.
Yep.
Art is. You go anywhere in the world, we see this as touring musicians. You go anywhere, people love music.
Yeah.
People love art, and it's wonderful. It transcends barriers. It transcends religions. It transcends, which again brings us kind of back to the whole thing with food, where, ultimately, every person makes their own choices in life, and all we can do is share ideas, And I think if everybody had that approach of let's just share ideas, sometimes we could disagree. Sometimes you could say something to me, I could be like, that's not for me. Or likewise, I could say something to you, you'd be like, man, no, I don't want to go down that path. I'd rather do it this way. And that should be cool, We're in a time where things are so divisive, which I find unfortunate because... And I get it, some things are difficult to talk about, politics, religion, all that stuff, I get it, but at the same time, it should be something where we should be able to see eye to eye about the fact that we don't see eye to eye.
Right, explain each other's views. And that's the thing, it's nowadays has gotten to the point where, there's certain things like, heaven forbid you even talk about on video or anything like that people get up in arms about, and even the food thing, just like you said. I mean, everybody
very upset about it.
It should be whatever. I'm going to be me, and you could be you, and
Exactly.
maybe we could be us together. But I mean, at some point, it's like, you know, everybody's got their own decisions of what they want to do, and that's what makes life unique and takes everybody in different directions. And
the world needs a bunch of different people to be the world. I mean, imagine if we were all, you know, voting for the same guy, eating the same food, like
driving the same car.
Yeah,
Everything is like a white hatchback.
Exactly.
Oh no! Oh no! What are we gonna do?
That's it. But I think we feed off of each other's ideas, and you know, I learn stuff from people all the time. Like I say this to my students a lot as a drum teacher. You know, they're like, "Oh, thanks for the lessons and stuff." I'm like, "No, thank you, because you're teaching me things." You know, when I teach somebody like yourself or anybody, you know, something about what I've learned about drums or music, I learn from seeing how you take that in, the questions you ask me. Maybe something that you're like, how do I do this? Something that you don't know, and so I have to figure out a good way to show you, like, how about try this?
Yeah.
And it's different for every person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like you're going to do it a certain way, or you're going to have a certain obstacle, which another student might not have that obstacle. He can actually just naturally do that, but then there's something else in there that he needs to figure out that I need to, you know, or try to find a way to help him with. And so I learn.
Yeah.
It makes me grow as, you know, my understanding of music and of drums and the instrument and passing on the knowledge. So it's always a bit of a give and take thing, which I think, you know, people should remember that when you're talking about any subject, whatever it is, you know, and you have somebody there who doesn't agree with you, you can learn something from them and they could learn something from you, instead of being like, let it go to anger.
Yeah.
A place of anger and a place of discontent somehow, or you're mad because this person doesn't think the same way that you do. I mean, I know, like in my case, you know, about the vegan thing, I know a lot of people who, they want to eat their meat.
Yeah.
Cool. Like,
like
my dad grew up, you know, that's what he does, you know. It's like, and it was hard at first when I started coming around with, hey, you know, I don't really eat that stuff anymore, you know, whatever you were preparing there, like, I'm going to go buy, you know.
Yeah.
In the beginning, he was like skeptical, because a whole lifetime of like, this is what we do. You know, it's a tradition like this, even though, you know, of course, you know, he has a certain open mind, obviously supporting me with music. That in particular was something that at first he was a little bit, you know, weirded out by. Now, like, I go visit my dad, he'll have like a bunch of vegan stuff for me in the fridge.
That's cool.
He's opened his mind to it, you know, where he's like, I'm not going to do it, but I respect the fact that you do it. And that's all you need in life.
And that's life. And the funny thing is, so I do a lot of training and stuff to try to help people, and mentoring for networking related stuff and things like that. And I love doing it. I'm passionate about helping people. That's just something I love to do. And you know, I present at these different events and things like that, and not everybody will ingest what you have, you know, to give, right? I mean, and if they do, you might have to deliver it in a different mechanism or, you know, stream, so they can understand it, right? I mean, I remember when we were first doing the first lesson, I was sitting there and there was stuff I was watching you do, and you're like left foot, right foot, left hand, right hand. I'm like da 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 da, and I couldn't get them to go. I in my brain I'm like left, right, which you need to do sometimes. Call it out, go slow. But instinctively you're just like, you know, what I find sometimes is if you don't think about it, you know, it's like the old somebody going out to the pub and deciding they were going to do karaoke, right? Yeah. When they're not thinking about it, they actually don't do a bad job. Like I get up, I play and do some singing and playing and play some songs. I'm like, it didn't sound too bad. But if I think like, I got to do this and I got to sing, or I've got to.
Then it's intimidating.
It's intimidating. Like, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, one of the things I've noticed recently, you know, is that we put a lot of artificial pressure and stress on ourselves for nothing. And we do. This is like, I don't want to say like new year, new me type thing, but I started reading these books like in the last probably 6 months. I read a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Blank, which was a great book. It was a great book. If you haven't read that, it's a bright orange book. Go check that out. And then it helped me through some stuff. And then I remember I was waiting at an airport. My flight was delayed again. And actually, Dave Mustaine was the one who told me about this other book. It was called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. So The Way of the Peaceful Warrior was this book, and I couldn't find it anywhere in print. I would have had to go buy it on Amazon eventually, but my flight got delayed. I go into the bookstore. I'm like looking for this book that Dave was talking about. Couldn't find it. I was just all stressed out and just miffy, just because my flight was delayed. And I'm like, I'm flying all the way out here. I got to go do this event for like 45 minutes, and then I'm flying back. So I literally flew to Raleigh for 45 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
And I stayed for a day, but I'm like, you know, you're like, I was just miffy and I'm late and my things, whatever. And then, so I go and I walk into this bookstore and stare at me right in the face. Right next to that bright orange subtle art book,
Nice.
there's another one that's just called simply Calm the Blank Down.
Nice.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I picked it up. It's like right in my face, eye level. I picked it up and it says, it's time to start living life and letting go of the things or something to that effect that are kind of nagging at you. Yeah. And it wasn't a very big book. I picked it up. I read half of it on the way there and the rest of it on the way back. And I am not much of a reader. I am. I'll write a book, but I can't.
That's funny.
It was just one of those things that's so strange. Like I think in high school and junior high, I was forced so much to read these books that I just didn't care about. Like
Right.
Island of the Blue Dolphins, or I don't even like what.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
And you get forced to do something, and you end up apprehensive and resenting it and kind of hating it. I hated to read, and I picked this book up and I couldn't believe it. I buzzed through it, right? And then it changed my life, right? It was you basically have these guides where 1 through 5, how likely is something to affect you? Not likely at all, or like imminent, and then how bad is it going to affect you? Right. From like, not that bad to world's crumbling down, right? And I found that a lot of the reasons I couldn't sleep, I'm laying there just thinking through work stuff, or I'm thinking through whatever I might be doing for a book. I'm trying to figure out how to, I'm organizing chapters in my brain that I need to do while I'm trying to sleep. You can't get anything done doing that.
That's true. Yeah.
So I prioritize some of the stuff. I'm like, well, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. It totally changed my life, right? Mm-hmm. And then I get done with that book, and then I finally, the one from Amazon that Dave told me about came in, and it was called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And the whole idea there is just to basically just be kind to everyone, be positive, and live in the now. And
such an essential message right there.
It's ridiculous. When you had sent out, you had put you had put this podcast out with Kiko, and if I can find the links, I'll add it down below when we're done with this.
Cool. Yeah.
And it was just talking about you're always so happy, and then. Some people don't like that. They get mad about that. They're angry.
Yeah.
Like,
that's not metal.
Why are you so happy? What do you mean you're vegan? What do you mean you're smiling? What?
Yeah.
What?
Or they'll say like, oh, of course you're happy. You're playing Megadeth.
Yeah.
Like, what if you were doing some crappy job? You'd see if you're happy then.
Yeah, see if you're happy. And one of the things that you said is it's a perspective and it's a choice. It is a choice to be happy. It's to look for the positive in things, which has changed my life.
It's so true, man. And something I want to say about that, like kind of in addition to, obviously the interview with Kiko speaks about the how I got to that place, but something I want to say to that in addition to what I said in that interview is, yes, we all have different places in life, and some people are, in very difficult spots. Yeah. Some people are unfortunate, struggle. I have some friends in my life people I'm close to who, really struggle every day to make ends meet and just to survive, and they have to work really long hours a lot of times. But one friend in particular comes to mind, always smiling and happy, and regardless, even though she struggles, her life isn't always easy. And so it really comes down to like you said, making a decision to be like, I can approach this 2 ways. I can either let all this stuff, kind of like what you said about the book, all this stuff affect me like imminently and make me mad and make my experience terrible and that of the people around me as well. Because when you walk around with a bunch of negative energy, people around you will get affected by that feeling.
No doubt.
Or I can decide to be like, I'm going to make the best of what I have. Yeah. And I think the mindset of the positive side, making the best of it, will get you to a better place eventually. For me, it did. For me, it makes my life better every day because, I'm in a great band now and I get to do what I love, But I have fought really hard to get here. This hasn't been like I was born and I had a ton of money and like I bought my way into being a drummer in Megadeth.
Right.
That's not how it works.
Yeah, you still got to be able to play the drums.
And I
you got to put in the work.
Yeah, and I got support from my parents, so I got lucky there. But I also worked really, really hard to have this level and to persist for years and years where I was struggling to be able to finally, and then a little bit of luck climb the ladder to where I'm here. It wasn't even really my goal. I never grew up being like, I want to be in Megadeth.
Right.
I just wanted to do something that I loved, you know. And so when the time came to make that decision, like, I chose music because that was really what, you know, keeps my heart beating in a way, you know. It's like my passion for music. And so I worked really hard like anybody would do for any job, you know. And so it's not so much about, oh, how fortunate are you, like, how wealthy did you grow up? I didn't grow up wealthy. I grew up relatively comfortable, but definitely not like, you know, driving around with Porsche at age 20 or something.
Right.
And if you are, then all the better for you. Cool.
Yeah.
You know, I don't judge those kinds of things personally, you know. It's like everybody has a different situation. It's really about what you decide to do. Like you said, live in the moment every day.
Yeah.
That's what matters, because we all have adversity. Even the people out there that have everything you could dream of face adversity in some shape or form. Whether it's, you know, somebody gets sick, they get sick, whether it's they have issues at work. I mean, you got to imagine that a lot of guys who are at the top, you know, like, have very busy lives.
Yeah.
So they deal with a lot of distress stuff. Or whether it's people that are, you know, in the middle or at the bottom, we all have, you know, and I hate even using these terms, but I guess that's the economic reality of the society we live in. You know, you're going to have different, you know, kind of situations that you can be in, is the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
For me, the key is really to make a decision that you got to realize at some point that, you know, life is not finite.
No kidding.
It's going to end at some point.
Yeah.
And if you don't start enjoying it now, you know, you can't keep saying to yourself, like, I'll enjoy it later when I'm done doing all the stuff I have to do. You know what I mean?
And I used to be that way. It was like,
me too.
I gotta get the certification. I gotta finish this, and then like one day I'm gonna go work at Cisco. And it took a while. I got there, but in the same sense, it's like it's good to have goals, but it's also good to say what's going on in your present and what's going on right around you. And especially, you know, we're talking music, we talk technology, but there are a lot of people who are very, very successful and aren't with us anymore because they didn't find their way out, unfortunately. You know, and I can't say that it's because they didn't look at the positive or anything like that, but what I am saying is sometimes you can't get away from the negative. You know what I mean?
And also, you know, and I think if I understand what you're referring to, kind of is like there's also, you know, levels of mental illness.
Yes.
Which anxiety and depression, you know, you think those are just conditions, but really in some shape and form, there are mental illnesses where people really just have a hard time, you know, dealing with things. And this exists, of course, in all degrees. I'm not a specialist about that stuff in any way, but I think we've all seen people around us who struggle with these things, and some people unfortunately don't make it out. So they can say like, yeah, it's easy for you to say be happy and smile and be positive. I can't just do that. And of course, you know, what I'm saying doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. It's what I do. I'm just sharing my experience. Yeah. And for me, I found a way to make it work. And it was a battle. Like, I used to be a person who, which I talked about a little bit in the interview with Kiko as well, I used to be a person who would wake up and sometimes I would be in this mood, and that mood would define my day, and I couldn't get out of it.
It was a whole day.
I would be depressed, I would be angry, I would be, you know, and a whole day, sometimes even more, sometimes 2 or 3 days, I would just be in this, like, dark cloud. Yeah. And so I had to figure out a way to get out of that, and it was tough. Yeah. It wasn't just like, oh, I decided it, and now, like, oh, look at me. Like, it's not like that, you know. That's kind of the simplified image I might have given by explaining some of that stuff.
But you know, and one of the things I've learned, and my wife even had made a comment about it, is words matter, right?
Yes.
I used to, and I'm guilty, and a lot of people out there are guilty of this too, is when something went wrong, the first thing I would say was, figures.
Yeah.
Just
flat
tire.
Yeah.
Figures.
Yeah.
Raining. Figures.
Yeah.
Raining while you're changing a flat tire. Figures. Double figures. Just figures.
Yeah.
You know, and in a way, you know, I kind of correlated that to, it's just there's this constant rain cloud that's hovering right above my head, right? Yeah. Figures. But then I got to the point where I was just like, you know what? A lot of it came down to just saying, all right.
Exactly.
All right. Flat tire, cool. You know what's awesome? I have a spare.
There you go.
And I look at the positive, like I got a spare. Thankfully, my hands aren't broke. I can change my tire. Or if not, I don't have a spare. I have my cell phone. You know,
AAA.
Hey, come give me a tow, all right?
That's
you know, I remember I was in El Paso, Texas, for work at a previous company, and I had a rental car, and I had to wait like 2 or 3 hours before getting into work because for whatever reason nobody was there. So I'm like, I'm gonna go buy some cowboy boots. I'm in El Paso, Texas. I'm gonna get some cool friggin' cowboy boots. So I did all this shopping, and I got all these cowboy boots, and I'm like, all right, well I'm gonna go and put these in the car. So I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but my keys were in my jacket that was on the bottom, and I had the cowboy boots in the box on there, and I opened the back door and I threw it in the back seat, and I locked the door and I closed the door, and then I was like,
oh no.
Oh no.
One of those days.
And I was like, I was like, figures it was one of the words that came out of my mouth. I was like, yeah, and then probably I was just like, well, it could be worse, right? I mean, it is a rental car. I could just call. I have my phone, so I didn't lock my phone in there too. So I called the rental car place, and then they called AAA, and then AAA came and they unlocked my car, and I think it's sometimes it's trying to find those gems, that positive stuff. Like one of the things we talked about on another conversation I had the other day was failing at stuff.
Yes, very important.
Especially in technology and industry, going for certifications, going for a degree, learning something new. You talked about this the other day, biffing something during the middle of a song on stage with more people watching him than me, out there. That it's human nature, and it's okay to roll with it.
It is. I find it interesting that a lot of the very successful people in the world, have said that they learned the most from their biggest failures.
Yeah.
Those were the things that really forced them to look at what they were doing and how they were doing it and how to do it right.
Yeah.
Whether it's I think Richard Branson has said that, like Jay-Z has said that, like some, Steve Jobs, like some people that really, made it in their field.
Yeah.
And so I think to be open to the fact that we are human, we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And things are going to happen that we have no control over. Once you kind of take peace with the fact that you can't just be in control of everything, and that sometimes something unknown is going to come in and take over and throw all your plans, out the door because, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden I have to deal with this. Once you're at peace with, that will happen.
It's going to happen.
No matter how good you are, no matter how great of a software developer you are, you're going to stumble upon a thing where you didn't see it coming. How do I fix this?
Yeah.
Kind of situation. Same with me, or anybody. Like, no matter how good you are at your craft, you're going to have a day where you're going to mess things up. You're going to make the wrong choice.
Yep.
You're going to play poorly or whatever. Something's going to happen. Your cymbal's going to come crashing down. I don't know. It could be anything.
Stick is like, where's my stick?
Yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't bring any extra sticks, and now I only have one. Like, what do I do?
I just got to play twice as far.
Something's going to happen.
I mean, but then, focusing on a positive, the drummer from Def Leppard only had one hand. And he was able to do everything.
He's the classic example, but what he did is amazing. He managed to come out of that and still keep doing what he did, and I have the utmost respect for that, for sure.
No kidding.
But I got to bring this back to my mom, because my experience with my mom was like the only really super close person in my life, like from my intimate close circle that passed away, and going through that with her really taught me to appreciate the day,
Amen.
To appreciate the moment, because she was such a happy and positive person, always smiling. I think I have a lot of that from her, and when her life was coming to an end, and this was kind of a process, we saw it coming. She was kind of feeling it, that she wasn't going to make it. And, it really makes you realize that, like, what we have is so precious, and it made me realize that I was wasting so much time with doing stuff and having a negative attitude, where I could instead be enjoying what I have. You said, I have my hands, like, I'm healthy, Some people don't.
No kidding.
Some people have health issues, some people have, again, we talked about, like, economic issues, whatever it could be that's hampering you in your life. We're fortunate having whatever it is that we do have that allows us to do what we do. Yeah. And you have to kind of be thankful for that and appreciate that. And the way to appreciate that, again, could be different for different people. For me, it's like approaching life with a positive, state of mind. Yeah. And being like, like someday I could be, let's say I'm here, right, working on the record, and we're in the house, and I've been here for a while. We've been working on this, and some days it's like, here we are again, working on these songs.
You want me to play the same thing again? Okay.
It becomes a job, you know. I mean, anything you do, you know, people can be, oh, what are you saying? You're playing metal with Megadeth. Of course, it's awesome, and that's the thing. I remind myself of that. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a little bit bored right now, or just not really feeling this today for some reason. Wait a minute. I'm here doing what I love with Megadeth, with some of the greatest musicians on earth. I get to do this.
Yeah.
I'm healthy. I can do this. I'm doing something that I couldn't have dreamed in my wildest dreams when I was a kid I would ever be doing. What am I complaining about? Yeah. And all of a sudden, my whether it's a little bit of boredom or whether it's a little bit of just sometimes you just don't feel it. Yeah. All of a sudden, I can switch that around and be like,
now you got to get some more stamina, there's more oomph, you know.
I'm enjoying it, and I learned that from my mom. You know, my mom was going through all this stuff, still a happy, positive person. She taught me that. Yeah. And my wife said to me when we realized that my mom might not have that much longer to live, she said, make sure you do all the things that you ever wanted to do with your mom. Make sure you take the time to talk to her, say everything you ever wanted to say to her, ask her about stories that you want to hear from her, that she might have told you in the past that you want to hear again from her. Very kind of emotional stuff that at first I was like, you always want to believe the person you love is going to make it. Sure. So part of me didn't want to admit to myself that, like, yeah, my mom might pass away. She's sick, she might not make it. But then I followed my wife's advice regardless of those conflicting feelings, and I did all this stuff with my mom. At various times I would visit her and like, hey, Mom, sing all my childhood songs for me that you used to sing to me as a kid. Put the camera down. Yeah. We sat for an hour and laughing and reminiscing about when I was a little kid. Yeah. And those things were so meaningful and such meaningful moments for me, and I think for her as well, that when the time finally came, and she passed, like, I was at peace with the whole thing. Yeah. Because I had told her I love her, and she was a great mother for me, and she made me the person who I am, and helped, me being a positive person in life, and, obviously supported everything I did. And then she was very happy to hear that, and it gave her a sense of accomplishment, like I did right by my son. Which, of course, for a mother, I would imagine, is one of the most important things, right? It's emotional. I can tell it's making me emotional.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of my mom, right? Because, same, similar, right? Yeah. And one of the things I learned from her was, I remember it was kind of interesting. I was sitting there talking to my mom. It was actually the last time I talked to my mom. Mm-hmm. But one of the things she said, I was going for my CCIE with the certification, and I was doing some things, and she said, try harder. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. And then at the time, I had smoked cigarettes. Uh-huh. And it's been a long time now, but I had smoked cigarettes, and she's like, you smell like smoke. And she's like, you need to quit. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying. Try harder. And I was like, okay. Nice. And what it left me with was, whenever stuff is just you're just dragging through the ditches and the mud, and you feel like you've got nothing left. And this was probably like, one of the biggest reasons I was so persistent in going for these certifications and continue to try to go work for Cisco and everything was just, I have this angel now saying, try harder, right? I'm like, and just no matter how hard it might seem, like you just, for some reason, that gives you that little bit more of a, I could pull myself out of this thing. And
that's a beautiful gift from your mom.
It really is. And that is also kind of what's turned around the figures. She'd tell me how it was. You're just being a negative, beep. So I'm like, but all these different things, it makes us who we are today. And if anything, it's made you a fantastic person. I'm so happy to call you my friend and even be able to sit here with you. Thank you. And it's, for me, I'm hoping I can take some of these stories and help my kids with it, and do whatever I can to evolve and make sure that, they don't see the negative sides of the stuff that I used to. Yeah. It comes down to choice and kind of how you want to live and how you want others to perceive you and how you want others to live in your light, I guess. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think that's very well said. I think it's a lot about being aware of your surroundings, too, because I don't just want to be happy for my own sake, which I feel good when I'm happy. So right. But I want the people who are around me, and this is something that I have to say because this was a big problem I had growing up as a kid. I want the people around me to get something positive from me. As a kid, I did not think enough about other people's feelings, know? And even as a young adult, I would say it was something that for some reason I was an only child. I was kind of living in my own bubble.
Skateboarding.
Yeah, yeah, skateboarding, doing music, playing video games, like doing all this stuff. But I was always kind of, a little bit unaware of like, maybe this person's not in the mood I'm in, or maybe they don't want to hear this right now, or maybe this person is having issues and I'm not having any, so I'm not paying attention to their issues because, hey, things are cool for me. Like, oh, stop whining, that kind of thing, And so as, of course, growing up and having more experience nowadays, that's something that I always try to be aware of. What's going on? Hey, do you need something? Like, do you want to talk? Can I do something for you? Whether it's my wife or whether it's my bandmates or whether it's friends or people that I'm around, like, try to be like, not just about what I'm feeling. And to some people, this is going to seem like, yeah, of course, that's what I did all my life. Like, my wife is great at this stuff. She taught me, again, I always keep going back to Hannah, but she taught me so many things. Amazing person. She's great at this stuff. She reads the room. She knows. She's always there for people like, hey, she's always very aware of that stuff. For me, I wasn't, so I try for her and for other people to just be a positive presence, and to step outside of myself, which that is, for me, all the happiness stuff we talked about, that's a very important thing, is like, step outside of yourself for a few seconds and imagine how somebody else might be feeling in this situation. Right. Or, how they might be seeing you if you're like, figures, like, like you said, like super angry or like frustrated, or like, this other person's gonna feel on this stuff and be like, whoa, and sometimes that can be not such a positive experience for them, or even a lot of times, they might be like, oh, I wish Dirk was handling this situation a little bit better, like I went through that with my wife. It's like, hey, like, I know you're frustrated about this, but you don't have to like get all crazy about this stuff. We had those kinds of exchanges where she would make me realize, like, I got to change myself. Yeah.
And I don't want to say you get out what you put in, because sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't. Mm-hmm. But I think
life isn't always fair.
Life is not always fair.
Right.
But I also believe that, it has a way of working out. And if whatever that means, in my mind, it's like, I would rather be good to people 99% of the time, you know what I mean? Yeah. And even then, if people aren't treating me good, it takes a lot more effort and energy to be negative, and it's so draining.
Yeah, it is.
It's so tiring.
It is draining. Yeah, but the tricky thing about it is, and this is something that I haven't heard that many people talk about. It becomes a place of comfort too. Yeah. Like for me, at some point throughout my life, because I didn't know how to deal with problems I was having, kind of being in a darkness kind of thing became a place of comfort for me. And the way I can relate to it is music. Like, I listen to a lot of very dark, weird, not sometimes depressing, but a lot of times this is very kind of odd, strange music, and it actually really relieves me. It kind of gives those feelings a place to exist in a creative and artful way that's actually constructive. Yeah. Because music is obviously, like every art, is very constructive and creative. Like
and therapeutic too.
Therapeutic.
To that degree.
But you can get stuck in a thing where, like, being angry or being depressed or being sad or being, whatever, name any negative feeling, can become like a refuge in a way, because you're used to it. That's what you do. That's how it was for me for many, many, many years. So I go to this place of like, I'm just messed up right now, and I'm kind of used to that. So I'm kind of like, that's what I do. Yep. And so to break that cycle, which for me was literally, I get up in the morning, let's say one day, and I'm feeling that way, and it's to make the conscious decision, like, this is not going to be that day. Yeah. I'm not going to let this depression or this, I've struggled with depression. Like, I'm not going to let this depression define this day. Yeah. I'm not allowing it. Yep. Like, look at me. Like, I have my hands. Yep. I do stuff I love. I have a wonderful wife. I have wonderful animals. I have wonderful friends and family. Yep. I have a place to live. Yeah, I have struggles. Everything's not perfect. Yep. I'm struggling maybe to pay the bills right now, whatever. Yeah. But I'm going to make the best of this. And you can turn this around in, like, it's practice. Like, it's like a mental practice for me. You can turn this around in 5 minutes. It
goes back to those rituals, like having, not like anything, satanic or anything, but like rituals of doing something over and over and over again to help you. Like, for one thing, even just eating better, right? Eating better, exercising.
All part of the same.
And it's okay to, like, I've been sad and depressed. I don't think anybody out there hasn't been. Right. And it's okay to have those feelings.
It is, absolutely.
It's also better to come back too, right? Just
give them a place.
Give them a place.
You know, find a moment. Like I've learned this from therapy. You know, find a moment to every day to check in with yourself about how you're feeling. And sometimes, like you said, we all experience negative things, negative feelings. You know, they need a place they can exist. It's not about like, oh, you don't never feel sad. Of course not. We're all going to be sad or depressed or angry or just super upset about something or something someone did to you, whatever. You know, it could be all kinds of things, and that needs a place. Give it a place, but try to work through it in a healthy way. Instead of taking it out on other people, which I used to do. I'm angry about this, and I'm not really checking in with myself, so I'm not really fully consciously aware that I'm really angry about this. So now I'm yelling at that person as like, wait a minute, that's not fair. They don't deserve this. So give this a place, right?
My wife has drawn that conclusion for me a couple times as well.
It's funny how wives do that, right? Like they really see this stuff in us.
It's like, and you put too much pressure on yourself, and you do all these different things, and a lot of the stuff that I do isn't directly work related. It's kind of like, I don't want to say extra credit, but it's just stuff I love to do. I'm passionate about. It relates, but I seem to say yes to everything. So that has gotten me into a little bit of trouble, and trying to find the outlets to be able to say, maybe the answer isn't no. But maybe it's like not right now, right? It's okay to say, I can say if I take on one more thing, I don't know if I'm going to be able to withstand it, and I might drown a little bit. So I don't know if that's a good idea, because next thing you know, you're hermiting. Like what happened to me would be, I was writing a book. We were trying to have a baby while we already had a young child, and like all these things were going on. And then I was supposed to be studying for the certification. And I'm like, next thing you know, I'm in the basement for like 9-10 hours a day and just doing all this stuff. And then, well, that's not fair to anybody either. And it's definitely not good for me. So sometimes it's like you got to almost take a step back from yourself. Like you said, take stock of what's going on. And, you talk to yourself and say, what's going on with
what am I feeling?
What am I feeling? What's inside? What's going on? Because sometimes you just it'll creep up on you.
It will creep up on you. And it's not perfect. I get back to those places. I get back to like, dang, I'm here again. I'm like, I haven't checked in with myself. Things are going on. I'm not sure what I had the other day. I had to like literally sit down and be like, why am I stressed right now? Like I deal with like stress has been also a big factor in my life. That made me do a lot of stupid things.
But he kept his hair. I had hair. That was my refuge. I was like, that was the place I would go to. I was feeling down. I'd have my black long sleeve shirts, my black, and then my hair down. And then my forehead turned into a 5 head, and it kept going. So now I
haven't heard that one before. But man, it's interesting. This is a great talk. In the end, we all want to be in a good place. And whatever that means to you, that's what I love about these talks, is that we share ideas, you share your perspective, I share mine, and hopefully some people will look at this and share their own, and we all learn from each other, and we all we should be happy, I mean, like life is too beautiful of a gift, it's too precious to squander.
And it's too short. So for anybody who listens to this, I might chop this thing up into 2 parts just so it's easier to consume for everyone. But I want to thank you, dude, from the bottom of my heart, because you've been awesome. You've been great to me we've known each other for about 3 years now, and he's been great to me ever since. And
likewise, man.
And dude, I think I would love to have you back on at some point. We'll do something in the studio in LA or something. Have some actual drums. It'll all be fun. Make some noise. And I hope this helps somebody. If anything, like it's helping me, and I think if I can share that with anybody out, like this is kind of my therapy. This is kind of where this was born, and building that community, and to be able to just talk about stuff, metal and technology related. In this case, there was a lot of really cool stuff.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
And I really do appreciate it. And I'll put a whole bunch of links down below to all of Dirk's projects and websites and the talks that Kiko mentioned, and maybe you can coerce Kiko into coming on the show one of these days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and, he's a very he's got a lot of very cool things to talk about,
and he does great with the podcast though. So I love that. So maybe we'll get him on at some point, and we'll go from there. But thank you thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason.
And we will see what this new Megadeth album has to bring, and I'm looking very much forward to it, and we'll talk more about it soon.
Sounds great.
Take care.
Cheers, guys.